It's time to refocus. You have to refocus. I have to refocus. Why? Well, what's been on all of our mind for at least a week now? Horrible terrorist attack. Horrible terrorist attack, Hamas attacks, kidnapping women and kids, and death and destruction, and Israel's counterattacking, and it's the news story out there right now, right? Everything is about that. But I want you to imagine something. I want you to picture this scenario. You decide you're gonna move in with me. Times are hard, we're gonna be roomies. We're gonna get an apartment together. And you move in with me in our apartment. Don't worry, it's separate bedrooms, don't make it weird. You move in with me, and you start to get the impression that I hate you. And then it goes from just an impression to I flat out tell you all the time, I hate you. And then it actually gets worse than that. We're living together, and it's not just that I hate you, I tell you all the time, I think you're the reason we have any problems at all. And it would be so much better if you just were gone. And then I take it even further. I start to tell you, you frankly deserve to be hurt for what you believe. You deserve locked up, shoot, assaulted, punched. You deserve to be killed for what you believe. Scary situation, right? Imagine that. Imagine living with someone like that. And I'm telling you this over and over and over again. You suck. You're evil. You suck. You should go to prison. You're evil. You deserve to be killed. I'll kill you. Don't make me hurt you. I'll kill you. And then one day, we hear this massive explosion. And we look out the window of our apartment and we see that 100 miles away, there's a big explosion. And we find out that an enemy army has landed and they're marching towards us. Now, is that explosion in enemy army a big deal? Is it really important? There's no question. Should you focus on that at least a little bit, or at least figure out what's going on? Obviously. But for you, in that apartment with me, who wants to kill you, is that the biggest problem? The enemy army, 100 miles away? Is that your biggest problem at the moment? Or do you have bigger fish to fry? And I said all this because I feel like we are losing a little bit of focus here on the most dangerous thing happening for you and me. It's not Hamas. Oh, Hamas is dangerous. And yes, Hamas and Hezbollah and those evil terrorist scumbags definitely can kill. There's no question. There's no question it's a dangerous situation going on. This thing could spark into some big world war. There's no question. I'm not dismissing the evil or the danger of that. But you and me have bigger fish to fry right here at home. We have domestic political enemies who want to hurt us. They have announced this over and over and over again. They believe you should be hurt for what you believe, for what you think, for your freedoms. You say what you want, you think what you want, your guns, the traditional values. Ugh. They have announced that overtly, and sometimes they're a little more subtle about it, but they do it over and over and over and over again. And now, because of some gigantic conflict, Israel, Hamas, Gaza, everyone's just supposed to take their eyes off of the guy we're living with who wants to hurt us. Joe Biden was asked about those Islamic extremists in Gaza who rape, murder women and kids. And when Joe Biden was asked about it, keep in mind, extremist is a word he's used for you many, many times. Here's how he described them. Let me know if any of these words sound familiar.
Would you support Israeli occupation of Gaza at this point?
I think it'd be a big mistake. Look, what happened in Gaza, in my view, is Hamas and the extreme elements of Hamas don't represent all the Palestinian people. And I think that it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza again. But to going in and taking out the extremists, the Hezbollah is up north, but Hamas down south is a necessary requirement.
the extremists. Joe Biden, he saw the same video you saw, same video I saw. Dead women, kids, awful stuff, horrible stuff, war, horrible stuff. And you know what Joe Biden thought? He thought those people were extremists, which is very interesting. So I just brought it up. I remember him calling another group of people extremists.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Sound familiar? Any of that stuff? You see, the President of the United States of America, he thinks you're the enemy. He feels the exact same way about you and uses the exact same language describing you as he does Hamas. Federal Bureau of Investigation, they have just come up with a special category for Trump supporters in 2024. Did you know that? There was a big article out last week in Newsweek. Did you know about that? The FBI has a special category for you. Right next to those Islamic jihadists is you and your MAGA hat. Did you know that? Did you hear what Hillary Clinton had to say?
And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members.
Extremists, deprogramming. I'm supposed to be very, very distracted right now. And you're going to have to forgive me if I'm not distracted by other things going on, because Michael Hayden, the former head of the CIA, just openly opined on social media about the death, murder, assassination, whatever you want to call it, of a United States Senator, a Republican, Tommy Tuberville, who has displeased him. This is not some crazy 18-year-old college student who just got out of sociology class. This is the man who headed up the largest and most powerful spy agency in the world. Now do you see what I'm talking about the man who's living with you, and how we had better focus because we have major problems? You might remember that letter, by the way, speaking of the CIA, that letter that was put out by all these intelligence agency bigwigs after Hunter Biden's laptop came out. Hunter Biden's laptop comes out, they're scrambling, they wanted to call it Russian disinformation, so what do? They go track down a bunch of former intelligence heads who will sign on and say, yeah, definitely Russian disinformation. Well, now we know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it was Hunter Biden's laptop. This is all verified. Hunter Biden's a felon. This had nothing to do with Russia, everything to do with Hunter Biden. So they tracked down another former CIA director, Leon Panetta, who signed that letter, and they asked him if he regretted having that position of power, having his position in our society, former CIA director, and lying to the American people. Here's how sorry he is about it.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about that letter you signed on to from former intelligence officials saying that the laptop and the emails had all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. You don't have any regrets about doing what you did?
No, I don't have any regrets about not trusting the Russians.
Not a regret in the world. You see, the enemy is here. I saw somebody, I was talking to a Jewish friend of mine over the weekend, and we were talking about what's going on and people we know and the war and plans and Hamas and Hezbollah. We were talking about all kinds of things. And at one point in time, he said something to me that I had to correct him on. And I understand why he said it, because he's very emotional right now. But what he said to me was, if a bunch of Americans were killed, if America was invaded and a bunch of Americans were killed and kidnapped, you wouldn't hear anything about the civilian casualties America was putting on the country as they went and got them back. And I said, look, buddy, I know you're hurting right now, but let me stop you right there. And let me stop every American right there. Every single American. If 20 Chinese divisions landed on the shores of California tomorrow and began raping and pillaging their way eastward towards Washington, D.C., half of the American left would cheer them on. The other half would join their army. We have gigantic domestic problems, domestic enemies that have reached the highest positions of power in our society. It's not that world affairs don't matter, they do. It's not that atrocities and things like that shouldn't tug at our hearts, they should. But we had better focus about the murderer who lives next door, frankly, with us.